podcast's been a long time coming. Part of PH Journals and what I've tried to do over the past couple of years is try and dive into different aspects of the hunting industry. And what better way to do it in a section of the industry that I think is gaining massive popularity over the past couple of years. And this week we're going to chat all about videography. And I'm joined by a good mate of mine. He's been on a couple of safaris now with myself and a couple of clients. And Jéan, it's good to have you on the podcast. What?
Good to be here, Dil. Thanks for the invite.
We're often riding in the bucky and stuff. We've often had a lot of conversations and stuff. And I think something that's very special about Wildsmith Media is how you guys have aligned with the industry and made sure that things are done ethically and responsibly, because I think it's a massive point that we have to highlight, especially when you guys are trying to depict video and hunting and all that sort of stuff. So just getting to it, how did Wildsmith Media come about? How did you guys decide, and Andy's joined you here now, and how did it all start?
So Wildsmith Media was a kind of a side project of mine. It was my photography outlet where I did my creative projects in the outdoor space. I come from a construction background and was in the construction industry for 10 years. And I was trying to get a foot in the door in the hunting industry, and met up with Andy, or Andy actually contacted me to help him film a hunt, as his partner was, his business partner couldn't make it. And I was like, oh, what a wonderful opportunity. So jumped in with Andy, and we filmed the hunt two together and kind of enjoyed each other's company, and we worked well together. We had the same vision and creativity and skill sets, and ultimately kind of joined forces, and we are both working now under the brand Wildsmith Media.
But I mean, some of the motivation, like you said, you were building and all that sort of stuff. You were a professional hunter at one point, right?
Yes, at one point for a short time in my past, about 2 years we guided. I was a professional hunter.
Also important aspect into getting into videography. Yeah. So that was most of your motivation behind it, or what really got you into it? What was the first hunt that you did?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I came back from New Zealand after living there for 3 years, working in the construction. COVID happened, separation from my partner. Came back to South Africa, tried to start a construction company. Work is scarce, no one's employing, not getting a job. So ultimately fell back on desperation and where could I make a living? And I know that the creative industry is so flooded. Every second person is a content creator. So what did I have that the others didn't have? And I think that was my passion and understanding of hunting. And I thought that there is definitely a market, or there needs to be a market there, because the current footage that I see online is just underwhelming, or it felt underwhelming to me. And I just thought there has to be a way. Yeah, so I tried to put all my energy into kind of niching into the hunting industry.
So, Jéan, one of the things that drew me to your work and everything, and what Wildsmith actually stood for, was the whole cinematic approach. And I think it's become a very unique style. Not many guys can get it right. And there's often on safari, especially like on our last episode with Zach and Lacey and stuff, there's a couple of things that we actually spoke about earlier this morning that in the back of my mind, I kind of wish you grabbed that moment, but in the same sense, when I look at the footage, you've told the story in a completely different way. What do you find that what set you apart from the rest of the guys is telling that cinematic, that emotional level?
I think you could say that the cinematic part comes a lot from Andy and I's kind of got a corporate background, or more of a professional camera operating background, and he did his genres and I did my genres, and learned how to display cinematic pictures and videos. So I think along with the storytelling, it's how we captured and how we process the image at the end of the day that gives it a cinematic look. From your framing to your color grading to your rules of shutter angle, all those things, lighting play a part. And I think having learned that in other industries and translating it to the hunting industry has just kind of separated, maybe drawn a gap between the non-cinematic videographers and the more cinematic. Yeah.
Your I'll be honest, when I was doing these questions, I was like, one of the biggest things I've always wanted to ask you guys, and because I always thought it was something that I would be more aware of on safari, especially having a camera guy there, is the ethical nature of the whole thing, the whole setup. What do you, as a cameraman, deem ethical and responsible? Because you guys have got a massive responsibility, because if it doesn't matter who hires you, they're paying the bills at the end of the day. So you could have the worst possible client that will be putting out blood and guts and stuff all over social media. Are there any aspects around filming, and what do you deem that, wait, hang on, that's probably not the right route to go, maybe we shouldn't film them taking the guts out? Like, how do you navigate around that?
It also comes down to the cameraman that's filming at the time. We've got a few, four cameramen at the moment, training a fifth, and it comes down to their personal ethics. And then the editor decides to include it or not include it. But me personally, whatever doesn't do the animal justice and doesn't bring it dignity, I don't show, I don't capture. So, if it doesn't show the animal in a dignified way, I'm not going to capture it unless I've been asked specifically, which I won't do it with a smile on my face, but I'll do it. So like you say, like the skinning, yes, is fine, but the blood and guts, try and keep that away. And dragging it down a hill, people like, get this shot, and I'm like, it's not really showing dignity to that or respect to that animal.
Because it's like that, there's that weird line that you can't cross, right? It's like you got to be able to show authentic way of hunting and all. It's because unfortunately it's just nature, it's part of the whole thing, but you want to do it in a dignified way. So what have been some of the challenges out in the field that you've experienced, from maybe charging buffalo to hiking up the steepest mountains, because now you're lugging around this camera? Like, what are some of the most challenging shots to get?
There's many challenges. Challenges is battery life and managing battery systems and building a rig that works, that gives you the best quality for the most versatile, one lens to do the job, which is not often not possible, but usually we try on one lens, one battery, to try and fit them all. So those are the challenges. Is equipment. Fitness is also a challenge, to be able to lug it around and be in front and be behind at the right time. We've got to be 100 meters in front to get a shot, and then you fall back and then off to the side. And so that's a bit of a challenge. Sometimes the challenge is also where we need to make something look really epic, or the client has got an expectation that, hey, we've seen really cool for videos that you guys have put out, then expecting that as well, but they're not providing a facility where we can film epic stuff. I usually say we can't make epic shit if we don't film epic shit. So to be able to, put us in an environment where we're going to film cool content is also a challenge at most times.
When you say like when you say cool environment, is that based on like species or terrain or?
Terrain, and also how the hunt unfolds. It's hard to make something really epic if we're just driving around all day. So to be able to walk a few hours and camp at a river, or camp, but have a lunch and be able to tell a story, to create a whole experience in the video, that is usually a challenge for us, because it's not always the case.
You've obviously got various different clients, from outfitters to clients coming out from the States or overseas, wherever it may be. When you're filming, what is your first priority? Is it all about the hunt and the storytelling, and then then it filters down into the animal and all that sort of stuff? Is there a sequence of events that I know when sometimes when we do a hunt together, I'll always say, okay, look, I want to focus on this story, or let's recreate that, and because we're trying to get a point across to the industry. But when you've got a client over that just pays, like, what is your priority? Is to make sure that you get him in the shot, or is it the whole story behind?
You say, like, there might be an outfit that will want to send a message with a video, a particular message, and then we obviously try and focus to get the story to tell the message. But usually when the client comes and the client's paying for his safari to be documented, it's to show the client in the best light and to show him his best memories, you know, catch him laughing and catch him by the fire, not just squeezing the trigger, but struggling and climbing the mountain and, you know, dragging out his animal. That is like trying to show him, yes, this is what you've just done. It's been amazing. And when he watches that, he's like, gets emotional. It's like, those are just memories that I'll never forget. Yeah, so that's the crux of that.
What is an ideal? We've had a couple of discussions about things like this. What should the ideal length of a safari film really be? Because we've gone from short forms of 6 minutes to 20 something minutes, and what is your ideal?
I think it's not so much about length, it's more about impact and the viewer. It doesn't matter if it's 30 minutes and people lose interest, you know, 10 minutes in. So as long as it's capturing the viewer and it's delivering the intended message, I think that's long enough. So whether that be 6 minutes or 20 minutes. Yeah.
Jean, do you think the filming industry, or especially the side of like videography in hunting videos and stuff, is becoming more of a popular requirement in the hunting?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we saw a gap in it in the market here, and we kind of gave it horns, and now, you know, there's definitely a standard, and everyone needs to be seen and heard on social media. And I think there's a huge market for.
Are you seeing growth in the actual clients that are coming out, or is it more from the outfitters wanting to do content for social media?
Definitely outfitters. Yeah, it's definitely it's more outfitters. In my experience, it's more outfitters looking to, you know, have something to show clients. So that comes first, in my opinion. Yeah.
So they predominantly the ones that are getting you guys out there to film the hunts and make these epic moments and stuff. And for anyone that's wanting to come out for South Africa, I had a conversation with a guy the other day about his first time coming out. He's going, I think he's going to hunt at KMG safaris. I'm not 100% sure, but we were chatting about videography and all that sort of stuff, because it's his first time. He's bringing his lighty over, his son. What are some of the benefits that you think that they can capture? I mean, obviously they're going to capture the whole experience and it's going to live for a long time, but what are some of the benefits that you feel coming out on your first safari, that's something that you should consider?
To film a safari? Oh man, it's almost like kind of compare it to a wedding. Why would you get your wedding photographed? I mean, it happens usually for some people maybe once in their lifetime, or they've waited so long for this experience. So, you know, to document it and to be able to relive it with your friends over and over, it's priceless, I think. So that is just a major benefit to me.
My next question, and it's gonna go into a very controversial, well, not controversial, but a topic that's been discussed over many campfires. I think me and you have had the same conversation. But so firstly, videography as a career for a youngster. I know you said you guys have just hired some more cameramen and stuff. Is there a future? Is it something that's sustainable in the hunting industry?
Okay, so yes, off the bat, yes, it could be. I think the hunting industry has got a lot of space for photography and videography in the marketing sense, and clients coming to want their own videos. Sustainable, you know, it's like any job. Okay, seasonal, not like any job, it's seasonal. So, but the season seems to be extending every year. I'm like, now we're filming in February. I've never heard of anyone hunting in February. So we're going February to September, late September, and then, you know, then we're off to the US from September to February. So that kind of covers the off season. So as a videographer, one-man band, it's sustainable. I don't think it's scalable. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to also be business owners and try and scale the whole operation. So, you know, I kind of believe like if you sell your time for money, you are self-employed. You know, you are selling other people time for more money. You are an entrepreneur, business owner. So that's the only way we can eventually retire, is because the business needs to start still print working without us, you know. So yes, on a short answer, yes, you can sustain a living being a hunting videographer if you're good. But you'll need to think a bit further if you want to sustain it for the rest of your life.
Is it an opportunity for young professional hunters to maybe fill dates, like, I mean, if they're not booked hunting, is it something that they could consider doing part-time?
So like a hybrid PH/videographer, I think definitely. He's already got the contacts, most likely. To trust is a big thing. So if you already got your preferred employee or whoever hires you as a PH, you've got that trust with them. They'll probably give you a bash, give you a shot at their filming. If you can learn how to operate the camera and how to deliver a good product, I think definitely.
And because you understand hunting, it just helps you along the way.
That's something we haven't talked about, but understanding how hunting works, I think, is a huge part of the whole industry, because you can't just, you got to fall in line. You got to know what to do, when to do, what to film, what not to film.
Was that one of the challenging things, especially getting guys on board? I mean, when Rob came out, I'll be 100% honest with you, I was very impressed with how he conducted himself in the bush. There were one or two times where he tripped over a stone here and there, but
for a man that's looking through the screen half the time, that's not bad.
I got hold it against him, because I mean, he's got so many other things that he's got to worry about. But I was very, very impressed with how technically advanced he was, as far as, because he doesn't come from a hunting background.
So that Robbie is one of our success stories in terms of getting someone on board. He's been a good friend of mine for many years, and he absolutely didn't know anything about hunting. I said to him 6 months before, I said, listen, I see you've got a gap in your life at the moment. Do you want to try this? He's like, okay. So he didn't know the difference between a kudu and a springbuck. And I had to test him every week. I said to him, learn these animals, because you can't go film if you don't know what we're hunting. You can't look like a total idiot in front of the client. So brought him up to speed on the animals, went out a few hunts with him, got him into the zone. He didn't know anything about a camera and anything about hunting. And 6 months later, I can confidently deploy him anywhere and say he's gonna do the job for me.
No, I mean, I was very impressed. I was like, yes, because when you told me that you were bringing someone along, I was, that's always, especially as a professional hunter, that's always the one thing you worry about, because having an extra person or two on, you got to change your whole stalking techniques and how you approach certain situations. So it was, I must say, it was a lucky experience to see somebody, and he has such a joy when he's out there, and it's so lucky to see, especially like you guys and around camp, and how much fun you guys actually have, and because that also it helps with the, I think, ambience, for lack of a better word, the environment. It creates such a relaxed environment and stuff. So it was really cool. But so getting down to that sort of stuff and costing and all of that, I've always been on your guys' side. Well, I wasn't to start off with, until I really understood, especially now doing the podcast and stuff, how much time actually goes on behind the scenes. So I want you to debunk this perception that a lot of professional hunters, and especially outfitters, have about, and I'm not going to ask you to talk about costing, but more about time. What people don't understand is that a lot of conversations are had in the PH hut and all that sort of stuff about it's much easier to be a videographer and earn relatively the same sort of salary than what it is to be a professional hunter. But guys don't actually know what goes on after the hunt. So just walk us through some of the very simple, we'll put it into simple terms, of what actually happens post-production and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, well, before we even get to the hunt, it's all gear packed, just like a PH would, but make sure everything's working, all the quads are there, all your batteries are charged. We get to the hunt, we film, that's what you guys see. Film our hunt, we get back to the office, and then it's to drop the footage, transcode footage, so that means that we can, the computer can read the files easier. We transcode the footage, and then we start the editing process. And editing process is not just putting clips together, but it's color grading clips, sound design, music selection, and music selection. I'll tell you what, take you very long. So there's a sweet spot with being too picky and getting the job done. But it is involved, and we kind of allow at least 2 days for every day that we've been filming for editing. So we've gone for 10 days. It's 20 days of editing with revisions and with color grading and all that stuff. So it takes time. So I've also had a few PHs like look at me like, yes, you guys are earning what we're earning. But I'm like, we work 2 extra days for every day that we kind of a thing.
And essentially, it's all the hidden costs that we actually don't take into account. It's all the apps for the music and all that making, it's crazy. I mean, just being involved with the little setup that I've got, I'll be honest. I mean, right at the start of my career, I was like, maybe this is an avenue I should go into. But when you start actually breaking it down, it's much of a muchness. It's all of. I think the big thing for both professional hunters and videographers is just filling those gaps. Making sure that you guys are busy as much as possible, so that there's no dead time essentially. With that being said, a question I want to ask, and it's not in the questions I sent you, but we've had this discussion this morning and stuff. How important do you feel that it is now, more so than ever, that guys represent themselves as a personal brand as much as they possibly can? We had the conversation earlier about growing PH journals and all this. But even as Wildsmith Media, how important is it to make sure that you guys are putting out good, authentic content out there? Because, in all honesty, we see it's with any industry, and I must choose my words carefully because I've been in trouble before, but there's a very small minority of people that represent the industry in a shit way, in a terrible way. And because they're not putting out the correct stuff. They think it is good clickbait stuff and all that, it gets oaks talking, but it's actually not really what we're all about. How important now, especially we spoke briefly this morning about the meta thing and lifting, how important now, what's the biggest responsibilities you feel that videographers have now to bring forward more positive content than before?
We have such a huge platform now and a huge opportunity. Hopefully with this meta lifting, we can be seen, but we've got a huge opportunity to portray hunting for what it is, but being authentic to hunting without showing all of that 1%ers. That I'm not a big fan of headshots and all those things that you see go viral, and then it's messy. But to show hunting as ethically as we can and as beautiful as we can. Like, I don't explain how to say it any better than that, but to show everyone that hunting is actually, it's good, and we support it, and it's necessary.
It's got a unique place in the conservation movements and stuff. I mean, I think we live on I do, but we live through our phones a lot of the time. And I think it's becoming more prevalent now, and it's more important for us now because before we had a responsibility, but I think a lot of us through the industry, we kind of relied on the flagship thing where a lot of our content, we just assume if it wasn't right that it would be flagged anyway, then it's fine. We kind of wash our hands on it. But now, especially like my little engagement with X and all that sort of stuff, people actually see it before they have anything to say about it. So I think essentially those people that are going to have anything negative to say are going to be tree huggers, bunny huggers, guys that have got negative things to say about the industry. But we've got to try and captivate them in their first 3 seconds as much as possible to say, okay, actually, well, let me watch what this video is all about and let's consider it. But so on that point, social media, is that something that you find that has been beneficial to your guys' business as a whole?
For us directly, we have struggled with social media, as we've been flagged for everything. It's been really difficult to get any sort of growth and audience. But social media has been probably the reason why we are here, and that's why we have a business, is because of outfits and clients wanting to market their experiences or their facilities or their outfitters. So I think social media has definitely played a big role for us in our business.
Personally, Jean, some of your most unforgettable moments you've had in the bush?
Sure. Go through the archives. Let me just think. Man, I had my first buffalo hunt behind the camera. Never been on a buffalo hunt before, and that was quite scary. It was a 35 yards with a bow. First one, and it was in the thickets, and it was like close. So that was pretty hair raising, and you sitting there, no firearm, and you got your PH. You just hope you can shoot, and the client, and a backup PH. But yeah, so that's hairy. The arrow didn't penetrate. We thought it did, but it didn't even penetrate vitals. So we were chasing that buffalo. Our guide ran. Oh, he ran probably 7Ks flat out with a 375 in his hands, and he managed to get it down with nine shots. And that day I also realized how tough a buffalo is, because he had shot all 9 shots in those vital triangle, and that buffalo was strong as hell. So that was pretty epic. I've had an eagle swipe my drone out of the sky, hovering too close to his nest. That was.
Yeah.
I don't know if the international if people know what this means, but that was the feeling, because that drone and then it like sorted itself out. There's been some epic experiences. Being 6.5, 7,000 feet above sea level, and shooting a massive volley. That was also an experience in crazy winds. And we've been to Mexico twice, which has also been a huge door that opened for us. I never thought we'd be international and be, people willing to fly us across the world to come and film.
What has been one of the most, and you're not allowed to say any of my stuff, but what has been the most ridiculous request you've ever had?
Andy, what do you think comes to mind? Ridiculous request.
You haven't had to go and film like a proposal on the top of a mountain or something like that?
I'll probably remember something when I'm in the car on the way home now, but.
And then your most memorable hunting destination and species that you filmed hunting?
Well, we've been quite a lot in the Eastern Cape here, but it must be up there in Somerset East, just on the.
It's a beautiful area there.
Yeah, and at high altitudes, you've got this huge valley basin below you. We shot that, like I said, that Valry buck. It's super memorable and majestic. So I feel like you're in Jurassic Park. Yeah, it's just untouched.
And then a topic I wanted to touch base on, and it's been a theme in the podcasting fraternity in the hunting industry for some time now. But AR, what role do you think AR has? There was an interesting conversation I had with somebody during COVID. They were doing those safaris where you could have the headsets on, and I think they were up in the Kruger, and I want to say they had a 360 camera or something, but you could literally have these headsets on, and you would be driving around on a game viewer, and you could see what was. Do you think that's something that's going to start creeping in, especially with AR now becoming more invasive part of the? But I mean, I don't know.
Currently, we use it as a tool, and it's very helpful, and it saves a lot of time and equipment sometimes. As far as the production side, the post-production side, I'm not too sure, not clued up on the actual virtual reality side, like you mentioned for Kruger. But definitely in the editing department, it might take over and it might make us obsolete one day. I don't know. But currently and for the foreseeable future, it's definitely I can't see it how it will take our jobs in terms of filming. How is it going to go and capture someone's mind?
Yeah, I don't.
But it could take maybe a lot of post production out of play.
So essentially, make your jobs easier. Because I think the one thing that's very unique about, and I guess this is where the importance of working and building relationships, like we said earlier this morning, is that you essentially know what like emotionally attached something would be in that moment, right? And I don't think AI really has that key factor, I guess. And then I think the minute, especially with something with hunting, I had this conversation with Jono. I think the minute you take emotion and empathy out of it, I mean, we've seen what happens when you take empathy away from something. It becomes a shit show. But I think the minute we take empathy and emotion out of the hunting industry, I think it can be seen as a very negative light. But so I don't think, as far as videography goes, I mean, you might get one or two clever outfitters that would want to try and film their own stuff and use AI to edit, and yeah, could go horribly wrong. But what worries me is that with you guys putting out all this well, not you guys, but essentially us as hunters, we're putting out all this footage. I worry that it might be manipulated in a very negative way. People could utilize it.
Definitely. I mean, it's been done in different industries, and you know.
Well, the scary thing is how quickly it's evolving.
No, it's a year ago. We've seen some examples. Andy was actually showing me how far AI has come in just 1 year in terms of AI generated videos. Just type it what you want, and just the hands. I need to work on the hands. That's a bit weird still, but the rest is quite convincing.
But I mean, this podcast will be edited off AI. The audio gets tuned with AI, and it's crazy. But with AI, how important is it to stay up to date with camera? I mean, you've upgraded a couple of cameras since last time we saw, but how important, I mean, is staying ahead of the game with camera equipment and all that sort of stuff?
I think there's a diminishing rate of return on camera equipment and all that. People are all the rage about 8K, 6K, 4K, all that jazz. At the end of the day, we export our videos in 1080p. You know, and people will like laugh. They're like, "What? Why?" I'm like, because half the people watch on YouTube with a not paid subscription, they're gonna watch 1080p, whatever. The internet connection's only allowed 1080p. Most of the people's screens are still 1080p. So 1080p is really good, still good quality 1080p. So yeah, we do film it in 4K. It gives us flexibility to crop in, because I mean that's like twice the size, 3 times the size of HD, twice the size, and he's the tech spec specialist. So yeah, I think there's a good kind of a line where there's a diminishing rate of return. So we're not going to be switching to 6K cameras anytime soon unless there's a huge demand for outputted videos in 6K. You can't really see the resolution difference.
And in South Africa, we don't have internet that can download it fast enough. I mean, yes.
So it's a craze, it's a hype like anything, and people want to sell you the newest and the latest and the greatest, but good 4K camera is going to still be relevant in the next 5 to 10 years, I think.
So, I mean, what's the plan next for Wildsmith? What have you guys, are there some big projects in motion, or is it just, do you guys focus more just on clients come out, hunting?
You know, at the moment we are quite busy, and we are just trying to refine our own internal processes to give the best product in a timely fashion. So we're refining everything to make it more efficient. We also are trying to get contacts or feet abroad, which we have started doing. We've got 2 in Mexico, to keep us busy on the off seasons. So that's in our pipeline as well, is to try and expand to there. We also not shying away from any commercial work in the outdoor industry. We have a lot of creativity, and you can only show so much creativity on a documentary styled video, like a normal hunting video. You can only control X factors, so many factors. So to be able to take on commercial projects where you might do advertisements and stuff, we can actually also show the rest of our creativity and the quality, the best quality we can output. So that's also definitely something we're still open to.
How on that topic, how turnaround time, what on an average client's safari, call it a 7 or 10 day safari, what is your guys' average turnaround time as far as footage is concerned?
Depends. Premiere Pro doesn't crash every 5 seconds. You know, we're quite good in a sense that we have editors and videographers. So when that video is done, it comes straight to the office and gets edited, and within a month or a month and a half, you've got your video.
I've never liked the topic, but I've learned to not like it because I never want to restrict. Like I said, I've told you and Andy as well. I've got creativity of a goldfish, so I like you guys to have as much freedom. Do you feel like having strict deadlines and stuff like that puts a little bit of restriction on you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's strict and there's impossible. So if it is possible, a good deadline. I mean, no one's actually ever given us a deadline, to be honest. I don't think it's gotten to the point where someone said, you've got to give it to us by X date, unless it's a commercial job and they need it. But in the hunting industry, everyone has never really said anything about it. But yeah, never said.
Normally, outfitters always they wanted like yesterday type file, but
maybe we've just delivered before they could even complain about it. Yeah.
So, Jéan, with that being said, I mean, like, what do you think there's a bigger future now in the videography? I know we've touched on that. You think that with the responsibilities and all that sort of stuff, but is there space for any more guys coming into the industry? Because I mean,
how many outfits are there in South Africa? There are so many, and I think for every one of them to stand, like, it's become the new standard is to have a YouTube presence and an Instagram presence, and you got to look at least as good as your competitor. So there's just no ways that 4 or 5 of us at home can facilitate or service the whole industry. So I think there's space for guys to come in and give it a bash, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the video inside of things is, for me, it's a very, very interesting one. Because I think there's so many good guys. I mean, I've just seen all the work that you've done with John X and Tully's and all of that, but I think I like the way that people are expressing themselves a little bit more, because I think one of the bad things in this industry is perception. Not only just with the guys outside of the hunting industry, but within internally as well. Is there any bitterness that you've come up with working with different outfitters and stuff? There's no animosity against one another?
Luckily, not yet. I don't know, not yet. Unless they have towards us, I think we're good. Yeah, we got the. I hope so. I would think so. If they're asking us for repeat work, I hope the respect is there for sure.
And then, so how does it go about? So we've got a client that's wanting to come off, call it his first time. How does he go about getting the process done with you guys? Is it all online? Communication will obviously have to start somewhere.
A lot of, I would say 80-90% of our clients come through the outfitters, and then they just deal directly with the outfit, and the outfit deals with us. But for the clients who want to use us directly, we've got a website at wildsmith.co.za, and there's a contact form and all the information about us page and all that portfolio, so they can just send us an email on the website and get hold of us through there.
And what is the ideal time for them? I mean, if they're coming out for a 5-day safari, is that possible to make?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I would say 3 days at least. But 5 days is plenty to make a good video.
And what's all included in there? Is it just the hunt, or I know with us you've done a lot of around the camp stuff and the fires and all that?
It's literally, it's kind of when you arrive. It's documenting as you step out of the vehicle into the lodge until you leave again, and it's everything in between without getting too much in your space. You don't. There's also, you can feel the vibe where you don't want to be in their space too much, especially around eating. We don't film people eating. It's just one of those things. Just, I don't want to be filmed chewing or talking with my mouth open. So we'll film up to you putting the fork in your mouth. But yeah, around the fire, all of that jazz. Yeah, all the experience.
Pretty much whatever personal preference the clients have and how things go about and stuff.
You might get some good photos as well in between.
That was going to be one of my next questions. Is photography taken off? Is that something that you guys are progressing into quite a bit?
I think it's definitely a value added service that we have at Wildsmith. Our guys, we take really good photos, and not every videographer understands photography. And I specifically come from a photography background, and Andy a lot from a video background. But us both together, we snap, like, really captured and candid photos during your hunt, in between all the videos, and at night around the campfire, we'll deliver you some photos, and it's quite special to reflect on the day's happenings. Yeah, definitely, yeah. Because the first thing you see is the video when you get back home in 2 months, 3 months time. So it's something to look through, to send to your friends, and it's really high quality polish.
A lot of the time I have this conversation with Doug is that before you get your taxidermy and the thing, you get to, everyone's just got photos, and that's why for me photos and video have become such an important part of the industry, because I feel when those guys are out there, they want to share their experience there. They don't want to share it 6 months later. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, yeah, shit, John. I feel that the videography space is growing, and it's growing in a good way. And I want to say that you guys now have got a very good platform to depict the hunting industry in a very positive and meaningful way, and I really appreciate the way you guys handle things, and the way you guys edit, and small attention to details and stuff. But so I wanted to ask you, is there anything from a dream hunt perspective that you would like to add to your resume in the near future?
From me to hunt personally, or me to film? Either way, either I'd love to do an international hunt, in terms of like maybe New Zealand again. I lived there for a while and I hunted a few times, but like an alpine hunt in New Zealand would be just a photographer's dream as well as a hunter's dream. Maybe a chamois on the mountain, or like a elk in the States. That backpack adventure, 3 to 5 days, out there camping under the stars. That is epic. So we don't get to film a lot of that, and that is something where I think, from a storytelling point of view, could be just like, wow. Yeah, sure. So not just coming back to the lodge and then that's the day's over. You putting up camp, you drying your boots out, you got the fire going.
Have you ever had a moment, sorry, just to veer off there a little, have you ever had a moment where you got back to camp and be like, that was one hell of an experience?
Yeah.
Or
pass out 5 seconds.
Yeah. or vice versa, where you get back to camp and you be like, shit, I remember seeing that, I should have captured that moment, or I missed the shot or something.
There's always shots we miss. That record button is, hey, plays games with you sometimes. There's definitely, everyone's done it. We've clicked record, and they started recording after the kill shot. So, but
Technology fails you.
It's actually this finger that failed me. The technology is pretty consistent. But there's been times we get home and it's just been an insane day. You've been up at 4 before sunlight, you've been in the bush the whole day, seen and just taken in scenery, and get home and it's like, wow. Especially the big kudu pool is always, for me, is something to just.
Because there's often, and I guess you get to relive it in a sense, but when you go back for like post-production and stuff, there's often times I actually look back on a day and I'll be like, shit, you know what, I took that moment for granted. I should have spent a little bit more time there, or something. There's a story I often tell on the podcast. There was a lady, Sharon, she's actually coming out next year with me, and then she had never seen a hoopoe in her life, and she stopped me, and yeah, so since that day, I think appreciating the finer details in my careers, and that's why, like, essentially I enjoy having some sort of video afterwards, is because you get to relive it. Like that Zach and Lacey hunt, we were just telling you all the good funny moments we had from that. So it's not just about pulling the trigger. But we've got a segment on the podcast. I don't know how we're doing for time. Well, we're still pretty good for time, but we've got a segment of the podcast where I ask you, because you're my first guest in 2025, you've got the first privilege of asking the question, and then you've got to give me an answer on this one. So, if there's one thing you could change about the hunting industry, what would it be and why?
Jeepers. Yeah, that is one thing I could change about the hunting industry. My goodness. Maybe we should leave the thermals at home. Eh? Perception? I mean, yeah, sure. Okay. Perception of the hunting industry.
Have you guys found that, especially with the videoing side of things, there's been a lot of negative perception around from what you guys have?
We've only been reported on our social media. We've never had bad comments, to be honest. No.
Never had anyone come on and say, "I want to stab you the way you've."
So yeah, I mean, Andy's actually maybe hit the nail on the head, but perception of the hunting industry, and you know, you're telling your friend at a family braai, oh, we do this for a living, and they're like, you film things get shot, you know, like they don't know the full story behind it. So it's a bit of a touchy one for a lot of people.
And do you ever have that in the back of your mind when you're editing, like, oh, well, if people don't quite understand hunting, they wouldn't really understand this? Because that's, yes, whenever I try and, when I think of recording a podcast, okay, yours guys was a little bit different, but if I interview, for instance, another professional hunter or something, I always try and ask the question from the other side perspective, you know. And I'd find it difficult. I guess that's why I don't do videography, because I think I'll be trying to answer too many questions through the footage instead of actually just doing the job right, you know. So, but perception was a good one.
Perception, nice one, Andy.
But yeah, Jean, it's been a absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I know we're definitely going to be able to do it again. Andy can join us next time, and we have two different perspectives and how things happen. And yeah, and just to reiterate, part of the PH Journal's journey was always to try and find different avenues in the industry for professional hunters to make a little bit of an extra income, but also to have a better understanding of the different aspects that make up this industry. And I think because videography plays such an important role, I think this was an important discussion. So I look forward to many, many more. But yeah, we've got an exciting season ahead, and yeah, thanks for everything. Thanks for coming in and setting up my little makeshift studio. It's going to look professional for once. But yeah, thanks, and we'll touch base soon.
100%. Thanks, Doc.